1,000 martyrs. 1,000 martyrs I have made, all sacrificed to my desire. 1,000 beauties have betrayed, that languish in resistless fire. The untamed heart to hand I brought, and fixed the wild and wandering thought. I never vowed nor sighed in vain, but both, though false, were well received. The fair are pleased to give us pain, and what they wish is soon believed. And though I talk of wounds and smart, love's pleasures only touched my heart. Alone the glory and the spoil, I always laughing bore away. The triumphs without pain or toil, without the hell, the heaven of joy. And while I thus at random rove, despise the fools that whine for love. So think about the tone of this poem. Think about what the speaker is trying to convey, especially about love and the speaker's experiences with love. Are they good, bad, otherwise? Is she sad? Is she angry? I would say a lot of it is more or less contempt against the idea of love, against the idea of seeking love. She kind of takes advantage of the people that she comes in contact with. The speaker doesn't have to be a girl. I just gave her a feminine identity, so consider that. Some questions that you're going to encounter will be tone questions. So, what is the tone? You'll get questions that pertain to comprehension of the poem and thematic questions. You'll also get a question about alliteration. There's a few instances of alliteration in this poem and how they relate to the poem's meaning, because generally when a poet uses alliteration, they're doing it to signal that words are important. So you're going to have to pick apart that alliteration and describe how it pertains to the poem and why it's important. You're going to also get questions about picking apart specific lines, what they mean, and how they pertain to the theme. So please make sure that you have a good idea of what each line means with relation to the entirety of the poem's meaning. Passage number 2, Damon and Pythias. There once lived two men called Damon and Pythias. They were both lovers of truth and integrity, and in all the city of Syracuse they could find no one who upheld these principles so well as each other. Dionysius was at that time the ruler of Syracuse. He wielded complete authority and very often abused his power, for he was hot-tempered and imperious, and anyone who angered him was put to death. One day he was informed that a young man named Pythias had been heard complaining against the cruelty of Dionysius. No one was allowed to criticize the ruler, and Dionysius condemned the youth to die. When Pythias learned of his fate, he begged to be allowed to return home to set his affairs in order. "How far away is your home?" inquired Dionysius suspiciously, "and how may I be certain you will return?" "My home is many miles distant," replies Pythias, "but I have a friend, Damon, who is willing to take my place while I am away." There was a stir amongst the bystanders, and a man stepped to Pythias' side. "I am Damon, my lord," he said. "I will give myself up as a pledge of my friend's return, and if any accident befalls him, I will die in his stead." What does that remind you of? Does that remind you of possibly the Hunger Games a little bit? The tyrant was amazed by this generosity and gave Pythias leave to depart, fixing on the day and hour of his return, and warning that he would not fail to exercise justice on his friend if he did not arrive back in time. The days passed and the morning dawned on which Pythias was to have been executed. Still Pythias did not appear, and the people of Syracuse said that Damon would surely be killed. Oh no! Everyone was agreed in condemning his behavior as rash and foolhardy, but Damon himself was the happiest man in the prison. He was filled with hope that his friend would not return in time. Remember that both of these men hold very dearly integrity. And he was led out to execution with a cheerful face. Dionysius had come to see him meet his death and called out to him in mocking words. So, Damon, where is your friend of whom you were so confident? I fear you have allowed him to take advantage of your simplicity. It is impossible for me to doubt my friend's constancy, replied Damon. Perhaps he has met with some accident along the way. At that moment, a horse broke through the crowd, and Pythias, travel stained and weary, half fell out of his saddle and ran to embrace his friend. I came in time, he gasped. My horse was killed, and I could not find another. Thank heaven I am in time to save you. But Damon did not want Pythias to die. He pleaded with him to allow the execution to continue, and Dionysius watched in disbelief as each friend eagerly sought to give up his life for the other. Cease! Cease these debates, he exclaimed, stepping forward and taking their hands. I hereby set both of you free. Never in my life have I seen such loyalty, nor did I dream such a thing could exist. I beg you will accept my pardon and allow me to share your friendship. Amazing story. Questions that correlate with this passage are ones that pertain to archetype, the tyrant archetype. Dionysius is by far a tyrant, okay? He controls his subjects. But consider how the use of this archetype shapes the story. Other questions might be what event changed Dionysius's mind? There will be some other comprehension questions. So, how did you comprehend the story? It's more or less what happened, and then you just have to choose the answer that kind of summarizes the answer to that question. So really, hopefully this passage was pretty easy to comprehend. There is a surprise at the end, so what portion of the story creates that surprise, or what event created the surprise?